So just, okay, but it was there, so it was a really tough, hard-fought game, two really good teams, competing, and, certainly hurts to lose a game. But really it's these kinds of games I think are emblematic of November football, especially in our conference. We got two teams getting after it pretty good. So, all those things that we thought coming into the game really certainly panned out to be true. Had a lot of respect for Oregon's talent, and they're a very well-coached team, have been all year. And they, so we knew we had a big challenge on our hands there. And then, all those cliches you hear forever in football, they say around because they mean something. And, it is a game of inches. Details do matter, and I think that's really what it came down to in a lot of ways tonight. So, we came up a little short, but really proud of our team's effort and the way they competed, certainly. Tough loss, in a lot of little things that we're going to have to figure out to do a little bit better of. But I think the most important thing for our team is they understand that there's a lot to be proud of. They're going to see a lot of really good efforts on film, a lot of things they did during the course of the game that were, really impressive. And, I think all the coaches are really proud of the effort everybody put into it and the way we responded several times in the football game. And, we still have a good team, and we got, plenty of football in front of us. So we'll go back, critique this thing, do what we can to see what we can improve on next week. And that'll be the biggest challenge is getting everybody back on their feet here after we get through tomorrow. So losing stuff never has been fun, and that's certainly the case here. Again, credit to our opponents, a really, really good football team, and they played well tonight. Last two things, just, want to also thank our fans. You guys are all in the stadium, and that's typical of November football here. To our fans, were outstanding. The weather could have been a challenge, and they, you'd never know with them. They didn't dampen their enthusiasm. They certainly are a good start to finish, and we appreciate that. It's a big edge for us. And then John Campbell's around here somewhere, right? Where's John at? All right, good. I was told this is your last. I thought you already said that once, but anyway, so. But I just want to take a minute and just, applaud John, and the job he's done for a lot of years. So I ran into Kurt Menefee probably how many years ago did he speak at the co-graduation? But getting a cup of coffee, and, we bumped into each other, and he told me just what a role John had played. Kurt's from Atlanta, if I remember correctly. Came to college to get in broadcasting, and John mentored him over his career, and, Kurt was already on Fox, and he just told me what a role John had played and how he'd gone out of his way to really, when he was here, take good care of him, and then they've really, retained their relationship. So John's first class, so let me know how it feels, will you? We'll talk about it someday. Okay. Thanks, John. I'll throw it out for questions.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Wanted to ask about the special teams errors, the snaps. Was that just wet ball? Was it anything else?
I assume it had to be. I didn't ask, but we just haven't had that issue really in a long, long time. So, the first one wasn't quite. The ball took off on him, and then didn't have a great punt after as a result. And then obviously the ball in the end zone there. So it had to be that. But fortunately we settled down and did better after that. But it was certainly a factor.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. In terms of the run defense, it seemed like they really were able to, build momentum in the running game. What did you just see from what they were doing and maybe what you guys weren't able to do in terms of stopping the run?
Yeah, I think I'd give them the credit. We've been pretty consistent for a long time stopping the run, and that's a key thing in football. Yeah, it was a factor tonight, certainly, because, it's just tough to play good defense if you're not controlling the run or at least minimizing some of the bigger plays and that type of thing. So those guys, you saw them out there. They're a big physical group up front. We knew that was going to be a challenge. And then their backs are really good. They've got really three really good backs back there. And the freshman kid's really given them a good – they've started to lean on him a little bit more. He's done a great job as well. So I don't think – it wasn't like we were terrible. I think they were good. And, we're going to have to obviously try to minimize that moving forward. I don't think it's going to become a problem for us, but we'll address it and see what we can do to do better.
Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register. You honored the 15 team here in this game. Brings back memories of the Big Ten title game a little bit. You know, you get that euphoric score on one end and then give up a crushing loss on the other by 2. And I'm just kind of curious how how you as a coach process this, like crushing defeat and trying to pick your team back up, like with a lot of dreams now gone.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not big on the dream thing, but it's really the second loss like this to this year, in my opinion, where, two teams are just going back and forth and competing really hard. And coincidentally, both those teams we lost are really good. And I think, we might be in that category too. We're not far off. So the trick is, how do we get up there to one more notch? How do we get, close that thing out a little bit better? But it's not one player, it's not one possession necessarily. Everything kind of goes together and everything matters at the end. So, let's go back to work. And the good news is that, these guys we get to work with every day are just extremely resilient. They've been that way since we got started. And I can't imagine, they're going to feel bad tomorrow. We all do. And, there's a lot invested here. But again, there's a lot forward. And, we're not going to be undefeated this year, but there's a lot of great things that can still happen. And to me, at the end of the year, you evaluate how you feel about yourself. Like, what would you do? What'd you invest? How'd you compete? And that's what this game's supposed to teach us.
Hey, Kirk, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Insider. In that same vein, scoring late, I haven't had, a ton of those types of things happen in the last, a few years. But to get the ball and have your defense be called to make a stop, I guess maybe what didn't work on that last drive? Was it the same thing that you were seeing throughout the game? What didn't work for the defense?
Yeah, I mentioned rebounding or, bouncing back, and that our first TG drive, that was critical. We were down 9-0, and we had to do something before the half, and I thought that was an outstanding drive. Another good drive there in the second half where we turned it over, unfortunately, and that cost us points, which obviously factors in at the end. And then, that last drive was outstanding, and it was do or die. We had basically 4 plays down there from the 10 to either score or not, or score or go home, basically. And sometimes that's going to happen. We just in the last throw they made, throw and catch them. It's just, you talk about a matter of inches. It was a great throw. Guy did a good job bringing it in. TJ had great coverage, and he's been playing his ass off all year. So, sometimes that's football. When you play a team like Oregon, you got to be right there. And, there's nothing easy, So this is the kind of game we were hoping it would be, and we just couldn't quite get it done.
All right. Coach, is there a reason why, your defense didn't take a timeout on Oregon's last drive, considering you had 2 timeouts left? And, in hindsight, when you go back over it now, would you have taken a timeout, to give your defense to regroup on Oregon's final drive?
No, not really. We were all aware of what the situation was, and basically in that kind of a series, they started the series, just, told Phil how many we had and if you guys need one. But I don't think we felt like we needed to regroup. We may have used it if there was something that we didn't anticipate, if they jumped in a formation or we ended up in a bad matchup, something like that. But no, we felt good about that. It's just, we just didn't get it done.
Coach, Colin Davies, KCRG, went pretty aggressive in the play calling throughout the game, those 4th downs, that long field goal attempt. Did you guys have a feeling before this game that it was just going to come down to the narrowest margins and maybe had to be a little bit more aggressive?
Well, a game like this, you expect, if you play well, you expect it to be tight. They've done a good job of, running away from people, too. So that was the goal, to make it a tight, sticky game. And then all that stuff ends up being situational. The first 4th down was a sneak on our side of the field, I believe, right around midfield, but on our side. Just felt like we needed to get something going here, so we took a shot at that. It's a double-edged sword. So, it could have been backfired the other way, too. Field goal kind of the same way. It wasn't one ideal situation to kick a field goal, but at that point, I thought that was a better risk than whatever it was, 4th and 6 or 4th and 8. So, we went with it and Drew delivered, and that was a huge play in the game. And that allowed us at least to have that opportunity to, have one last drive where we could, maybe get ahead. And, the guys did a great job on those conversions as well.
Kirk, Dan Stacy, Sportscast Media. Kind of a short week this week in a way because you have a long road trip to L.A. For next Saturday. You're playing in a famous sports venue next Saturday. Your team is. Have you ever coached at the LA Coliseum before, and are you looking forward to that? It's a famous place.
Yeah, funny you should ask that. I have one time, 1993, and we ran like a little toss double crack on it's fourth or third down. I don't know. We had the ball like on the 4, and they were man coverage, and it scored. And probably the most interesting thing, well, two most interesting things was after the game, I remember calling my wife, I think it was, on a payphone out in the, what do you call those things? The hallways outside. There's a better name for it in the stadium. And I also remember the Raiderettes as you come out. We were playing the Raiders, and that was distracting. Intentionally, they line up right by the visitors' locker room. So I doubt we'll see that this week, but, it's going to be a big challenge. I know that.
Last question, Mike.
Mike Gazette. Kirk, adding to this, what you're facing in the next week, I would imagine, is about as difficult a challenge as it gets for a coaching staff. What are the most important things about getting off the carpet?
Yeah, let me backtrack for 1 second. So, I think probably anybody that follows football at all would have said this is going to be a tough stretch, in the bye week, looking at our schedule back in the off season. You got a team like Oregon you expect is going to be really good. USC's always been good. Then you come back and, you're playing at home, Michigan State, and all the conference games are tough. So, you got a road trip. But the biggest thing is just how we choose to handle it. And we'll look at it tomorrow. I don't think anybody has a false expectation. Anybody's going to be feeling great tomorrow. It's just the way it is. When you lose, it's never fun. But that's where the 24-hour rule comes into effect. And, we'll be on the field Monday morning, and we got to move on. You got to move on physically. That's easy. But the mental part, you just can't let it linger because there's still a lot of football ahead. And, I've been through a lot of seasons like this where things turn out really good at the end. But it only happens if I'm sitting here thinking about 08, I guess. We're 3-3 at one point, 6-4 or whatever it was, and then just we won 5 out of the last 6. I remember that. Feel good about it. As good about that season as any season we've had. That was a top 20 team. I think we ended up 20th in the country. So you can't look behind. I mean, we'll look behind tomorrow, and then we're moving forward, and you got to do it. And if you can't, you probably shouldn't be doing this. It's just the way it is. Okay, thank you.